Okay. It's great to have all of you here this morning, and what we're going to be doing today is a topic that has nothing to do with any of you, but some of you have stress. We're going to be talking about stress.
You could take notes.
Yeah.
Put them forward.
Okay.
We've seen it all. It
Yeah.
came up.
Did you want to have anything else you wanted to say before
Not a word.
before we start?
Not a word.
Okay, it's nice to have you here. Hi.
Hmm?
Now, we're going to be talking a bit today about the topic of stress and de-stressing. The point is not just to talk about the stress itself, but how you deal with it. And this is a workshop. This is a workshop. This is not a lecture. The two words in workshop are work and shop. Okay? All right? Is that clear? And work is something we do, and shop is the place that we do it. This is the shop. We're in the shop. In the shop you use tools. In the shop you use tools. In the shop you use plans. In the shop you build something. And so that's a part of what you're going to be doing. This will be of no help to you whatever if you treat this as a lecture, as if you were little pitchers and I'm the big pitcher with all the information and I'm going to pour it into your head. That won't work at all. This is about what we do and how we do it. Now, workshop is also, the word to shop is also a verb. It is not only a place where you work. And when you shop, you go out there and you have never in your life, even though you wanted to, you've never bought the whole store. No. Okay? What you've done is you've seen what it is that is most valuable to you, and you have purchased that, and you have left the rest behind. All right? I dare say that everything that we talk about today will be of some use to each of you, some use to somebody in this room. But it is not all of it is going to be of use to everybody or anybody. You know, you must, this is a pick and choose, and you discern and you decide what's the best part for you, and leave the rest. Take what you want and leave the rest. All right? That shouldn't have to be said, but sometimes it does. Okay? Now, today what we're going to be doing first is identifying the stressors. And I want, would you be the recorder? You're here. Okay.
No, you did very well.
Okay, and we're going to be, as part of your work, you're going to be, we'll be recording this on the newsprint, and then afterwards, I'll ask Shauna to please type it up so that you can all have a copy of it. All right. Now, our past experience regarding stress. What did you think about stress when you were in college or high school? Name a few things that stressed you then.
Homework.
Homework.
Yes.
Homework. What else?
Tests.
Professors.
Peer pressure.
Saying something in front of the class.
Standing up and saying something in front of the class.
How I look.
How I look.
I'm sorry, I mean, boy.
No, you're fine, you're fine, don't worry about it.
That's definitely related to boys.
Not exactly a studio recording today.
Okay, what else did we have? We have
Oh, how I look.
how I look. Yeah.
Which is in direct relation to the boys, girls.
Yeah. Yes.
Entering as a freshman, either in high school or college.
Being the bottom of the totem pole. Entering as a freshman. What else?
Being bullied. Being bullied.
Being bullied.
Fitting in.
Fitting in.
Performing.
Performing.
Not seeing the blackboard.
Not seeing. Yeah. Ah.
I went a whole year squinting.
Yeah.
Didn't realize I needed to laugh.
Being away from boys and not seeing.
Performing.
Performing.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes,
What pressure to win, I
Jane.
think, sports.
pressure to win,
Being
yes.
away from home.
Being away from home.
You had to travel to go.
Being away from home.
Pressure to win?
Pressure to
Yeah, like
win,
in
yeah.
sports, you know.
Okay.
Put a lot
And
of
being
pressure
away
to
from
win.
home.
Being away from home, when you're in high school, you're generally living at home,
Well,
aren't you?
unless you go to boarding school, or, and this is college too.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're talking
yeah.
about college. oh,
But this is college and high school, yeah.
Okay.
And, okay, so now, when you were having these pressures, what were some of the things that you did or you thought would take care of stress?
Cheers.
Endure.
Okay, well, okay, so let's go, so we're gonna move on, and we're gonna come back to it, okay? Let's go now to the next, what about as a young adult? What were the stressors of your young adulthood? Let's say you're through college and you're, now, what are the new stressors or you're through high school, yes?
You're new to the workplace.
You're new to the workplace,
Just getting a job.
getting a job, okay.
Never having enough money.
Never having enough money.
Yeah.
So you just put a dollar sign there. Yeah.
Baby. Today, too.
Yeah.
Getting married.
Baby.
Getting married.
Babies. And that might imply
Marriage.
marriage or.
Not necessarily.
Finding the right guy, finding the right person.
Probably more stress without marriage.
The right person.
Well, what am I gonna do?
Yeah,
Direction.
Yeah.
direction. And are you saying by that?
Do you follow this path, or do you go to
Okay,
college?
so
Do you?
path and direction.
What am I gonna do when I
You know,
grow up, you know?
Yeah.
Path and direction.
What are you gonna do when you grow up?
I still haven't figured it out, Kathy.
What else? Other things in your post-educational and
When you're out on your own, you don't have the support of people behind you now.
okay, so that somehow the on your own idea.
Never having
you know?
enough money.
Yeah.
Worried
It's up
about
there
money.
already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on here,
It's up there
that's
already,
good.
yeah.
And out on your own, and so what other yes,
Personal guilt.
personal guilt.
About what?
Okay, yeah, and it can be about anything. You know, as soon as you are on your own and you're individuating, right, your own personality, it may be in deep conflict with your parents' idea of what you should have been.
How am I gonna get through this life being this way?
Okay,
I mean, doing it right, you know?
yeah.
For many people, leaving home.
Leaving home. Okay, the whole idea, yes.
At all stages, peer pressure.
Peer pressure, again.
Yeah.
This is a very important peer pressure stage. Why? What kind of peer pressure is happening at this post-educational stage?
All your friends are getting married.
Somebody else.
All your friends are getting married.
Dating.
Dating.
Getting a job.
I think that you're trying to come up to a standard you don't know if you're ready for.
You're trying to, your own standards are so high. Yeah, yes.
Getting a job.
Getting the job. Just getting the job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the peer pressure when your friends are getting the job.
Yeah.
You know, and
Job up there.
right. Okay, good. Now let's go to the next section here. Name the stressors that when you were in middle age. Now I know that 60 is the new 40,
Yeah.
but let's say that that middle age is just a little bit less than what most of us are now. Okay. What were the stressors of middle age? Yes.
Climbing the ladder.
Climbing the ladder. Okay. Climbing what ladder?
The corporate ladder.
The corporate ladder, the ladder of success, all of that. What else?
Having enough money to put your kids through school.
Having enough money to put your kids through school. Okay, dollars for school, for education, and okay, what else?
Raising the children.
Yeah,
Huh?
Raising the children.
Raising the children, right.
Career choices.
Career.
Am I in the right?
Right, yeah.
Career choices, that the whole midlife thing about, you know, am I in the right job, or should I make, if I'm gonna make a change, the chances are I better do it now, right? Okay.
Children leaving home.
Children leaving home, empty nest,
Yeah, they
right?
Preparing for retirement.
Preparing for retirement, okay. Say more about that.
How am I ever gonna have enough money?
How am I ever going to have that? You know, so preparing. So again, dollars enter not only in in this moment, but they enter in the moment to come, right? Yes.
Well, I know before I turned 40, I went through a tremendous who am I, what is the meaning of life, I'm a washed up, never was, have been.
Yeah. Okay. The midlife crisis,
Yeah.
and I would like I can't. Not everybody has a big one. But most people have something that begins to look like, you know, did I marry the right person? You know, did I have
No.
Yeah.
And some of us have several midlife crises.
Some of us have several midlife crises, right? And yes,
Dealing with separation.
dealing with separation.
Health problems?
Health problems. The health problems begin in our middle, okay? And that's a big surprise to most of us.
And they only get worse.
Well, that's sharing house.
This might not sound right, but I think it affects men and women. How about hormones?
Hormones,
Yeah.
absolutely. This is it's bad enough that I've got the workplace turning on me, but my own body is producing hormones that
You should go back and put hormones earlier.
And having to accept the fact maybe your stamina isn't what it was when you.
Okay. The reality of diminishing resources, diminishing personal resources, right, is or diminishing energy, maybe that's what
growing old gracefully.
Yeah, growing old gracefully.
And for those of us that don't have children, what's gonna happen to me when I get older?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I won't have a
Okay,
family,
so without
you know,
kids, what will happen to me?
I've been through a lot of that.
Okay, that's a very real thing. What else? I think emotional things begin to hit us harder in a different way. You know, it's when we're young and puppy love and all those things. You know, that it's the end of the world when it's happening to us. But it passes. You know, there's something about in the middle years, when things get difficult for us, it's easier to get stuck in emotions. Yes.
Your parents are getting older.
Now here we go. This is one of the new stressors that we get. We thought, we'll come back to that. The new stressors is the aging parents. Okay.
I don't know what you call it, but somewhere around middle age, your friends begin to leave you, either through death or maybe career means that they move away and you don't, but you are left sometimes wondering what's going to happen to me. Everybody's leaving.
Precisely. Okay. So the bereavement, it's loss of friends. It's a kind of bereavement, and it's either to death or to moves, career path moves. But sometimes we realize that we are going in one direction that is very different from the direction that our friends were going, and it means that we're probably not going to be close anymore. You know, it's a very difficult and very painful thing to say that not all not all things are forever. Yes?
The return of children to the empty nest.
Return of children.
That figure has doubled in the last 10 years, and it's
Right.
going up almost vertically.
Return of children. So becoming accustomed to the nest refilling.
Of course, now it isn't the return, it's that they never left.
Right. That's right. And so again, that financial, the financial stress of the present as well as the financial stress of the time to come. Okay? Now let's move up to the next page.
I'm out of room here. Sorry, I need to write this down.
Okay.
It really has all the things that have to do with the three-generational family again, because people can afford to have their older folks put somewhere so much. That's becoming, so the house is turning into three generations.
It is. And so that's a whole new thing. Now, the present. I know that, again, we're not talking about any of us in this room, but some of you have friends, right? And some of you have friends that are stressed, okay? But the truth is, we are all stressed. We all have the stresses, and they are different for each of us, but there are some commonalities, and that's what I want to get to. Let us first say, do you have new things that stress you as you approach or continue your retirement? What are those stresses of today as you approach 60-ish or more?
Money.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Health. Money, health. Yeah.
Health, yes.
You're feeling like you still think you're 30, but the people that are 30 think you're too old to have anything to do with it.
Okay. That my self-perception is that I am youthful and have lots to give and lots to be, and the younger generation begins to feel like I'm pretty dated and not.
I think Bob had an example of that when he went to the restroom.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right along with money is loneliness.
Loneliness, okay. Loneliness is a major theme of, and it can be, there's also not only loneliness, but aloneness. That aloneness is in regard to, I can even be in a crowded space and feel like I'm kind of alone. And we'll talk a little bit about that too, about, yes.
What do you call it? I don't know what you call it. But you begin to need assistance more.
I begin to need assistance more. I am losing my independence. I think that is what I would call it. Okay. Is that fear of falling? Okay. Why is there fear of falling? What has changed?
You're not as steady as you used to be.
Independent.
I'm A, not as steady.
You're
B,
brittle.
I'm brittle. I'm much more brittle. The chances are that of breakage are much greater, yes.
I think the reality that when you're young, you think, oh, I won't let that happen to me.
Right.
You know, when you see older people, that's not going to happen.
That's right.
It's here.
The reality of my aging. The reality of my aging. And along with that,
Who have I
It's starting to kick in.
who have I become?
It's just starting to kick in.
How
It's
about
starting to become a
Well,
reality.
if
My
some
God.
people identify or explore themselves as their career, now we've left our careers, how can I find purpose in life?
Okay, identity post-career. My identity post-career.
And whether you've done the things that you really should have done.
Okay, so I'm in an evaluative period, right? And my negative self-evaluation becomes a stressor. Negative self-evaluation. What is the, okay, we'll come back to that too. Yeah.
I'm running out of time to do all the things I want to do in life.
That's what I
The finite
not getting to
time,
do.
time is finite and I have things to do. Okay, what realm am I in now? What do we call this?
Stress.
Well, stress, but what's the...
Self-pity?
Well, self-pity, get that. Self-pity is the largest distressor going, because it means I am focusing on the most negative. If I am focusing on negative things, I will be stressed.
Yep.
I cannot help it.
And I will be depressed.
I will be depressed. I become what I look at. Yes.
That
Yes.
goes along with loneliness, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
All personal mobility, but also the loss of wheels.
Oh, driving.
Driving.
Oh.
Okay.
Independence.
Driving, and the
Part of
threat,
lack of
the,
independence.
just the threat of not driving.
Yeah.
Lots of independence.
We've got that already.
It's up there, and we've got lost.
We've got that, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's okay. Now, what about mortality? I mean, you know, that.
I was gonna say, our friends are leaving us.
That's right here. I have more friends leaving now than I did in my middle age, you know, and so, they're sitting out. For those of us who lived through the AIDS crisis, and those of us who are gay and lesbian who lived through the AIDS crisis, and in the 1980s, and we had, I had over 2/3 of my friends die.
Oh,
Wow.
damn.
In a period of 5 years.
Oh, my.
And it was the most, for the first time, I understood what my parishioners in the nursing home were talking about.
We had weekly funerals.
That's right, just weeks of funerals. And so it was like, suddenly I could identify with my friends who were in their 80s and 90s, who were losing one right after the other.
Yeah, my grandfather lived to be over 100, and he said the worst part of it, he was in good health, he was mentally alert, he had a full head of hair, had a wife. He said, I've lost all my peers.
Yeah.
I've lost all my peers.
Right. And my dad used to say, he was 88 when he passed, but he used to say, that it's all women down here, and they don't want to play pool.
And when he was younger, that was a good thing.
Too few men.
Right, exactly.
I played with them.
My husband is in a care center, and
Ah.
I'm in another care center.
That's
Now, I
Separation.
worry about my husband.
That's right.
Worry about
The care centers of both, and my mom worried most about going into a care center,
Yeah.
and then there is the worry for those who are in, who are your spouses, your partners, your. What else? I know there are several
I
in
keep
you.
after my son Seth, and I say, I want my husband to receive the very best care that he can receive, or else I'm going to have him transferred here.
That's right.
But there's a problem there too, because we can't be in the same area.
Right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Caregiving.
Caregiving. Caregiving. For those, and for a long time you were in the caregiving situation. Many of you. Many of you. There are several of you in this room, who have lost children to death. And there is, in that process, there is a feeling of aloneness, and it's out of order.
Yes.
Right.
It's out of
Your
order.
children are moving for jobs to other places, and there you are, your support system has.
That's right. Okay. So now we're in a new time, in this new day. Adult children are making moves that didn't used to make moves. People are moving in their 40s and 50s to other communities, and so you, as the parent, are left here in this area.
Another form of empty nest.
Another form, yeah, that's right. So now, okay.
Oh.
Yes.
I just thought of one more that I know has affected a lot of people, that last few years of your life when you have to move to another city, or because of your family.
Okay, the possibility that you have to move Velma to
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Or Evelyn Castile, you
Evelyn,
know.
yeah, to people to
Be with
to
you.
distant places, and that means cutting off their close friendships and all of that. And along with that, I would put establishing new relationships at an older age. And many of us that have to move into over 55 sets of I'm not saying
Communities.
the communities that are retirement communities. That many of us at that point have to begin all over again with making all new friends. And what's the problem with that?
Hard.
I'm older now, and making friends isn't as easy as it was when I was younger. Why?
Most everybody's in their own rut.
Well, people have their own lives already, and so I have to be much more assertive about myself now. Yes.
Adaptable.
I found it very interesting to be where I am, though, because I've met a lot of people,
Right.
and I've enjoyed meeting those people, and I enjoy visiting with them. And
Now, okay, so and for Jane is an outgoing person. She is Jane processes things. She's what I would call an extrovert in terms of her processing. She loves interacting with people that she doesn't know. Now, for anybody who does that, it's terrific. For those who are introverted and who do, and by that I mean you process things inside, you're not as open to that way of relating. So it's a little bit harder for you. And also, I think that one of the things that that stresses me more is I notice that my patience level is decreased. And I think it's because, now I know you find that difficult. But the reason is that I have come to grips with my mortality. I'm not going to be here forever, and I don't have time
For your crap.
for your exactly. I don't have time for nonsense. I am, and I don't have time for
Waste of energy.
I do not want to waste the energy that I've got. I recognize that. So now, so far, is this being helpful? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm hoping is being helpful about this is that we are naming things about stress. We are naming particular stressors that are common, and what the worst thing for all of us is that we begin to think that we're alone.
yes.
Okay? That we begin to think that I am the one who is the only one who has this struggle or these stressors or these problems. And to gather together in a group like this, where we have some similarities in age, or even though some of us are in the younger retirement, and some of us are, I think the youngest person here. So there you are, and you're a wonderful friend and support to Jane, and we count you as part of this family. I want you to know that. And you are the youngest. And who is the youngest of the, well, let's say 60-ish is probably 55-ish is about the youngest person in the room outside of you, okay? And, yes, okay? And 40, in the late 40s. Okay, so we run all the way from that to, who is the eldest in the room? I think is, Dorothy just turned
96.
96. She's 96, and we are, and so we range all the way from 40 to 96. But all of us have stress in our lives. Now, I submit to you that one of the realities of stress is that it is a part of being alive. That there is always, while you are living and while you are progressing and while you are moving ahead, there are always resistant forces. You know, there are always things that are going to be challenging to you and challenging to me. It's the way life is. It's always been the way life has been, even though now we are coming back to some of these things like three-generation families under one house. There are parts of the world that never knew anything other than three generations or 4 generations of families under the roof. You know, we've been in a bubble in the United States for the last while where we were really the only ones that were able to live this way, or at least us and a few of the developing nations, a few of the developed nations. But for the most part, the stresses that have gone on, economic stress, we think we have economic stress, and yet, if you were in Greece right now, or if you were in Mexico right now, or if you were in Santo Domingo right now, or if you're in Puerto Rico right now, you know, there are economic stresses that we can't even imagine. And so part of what is very important is that we're first together as a group, and we talk about what things have been the stressors. And I want to ask a question about knowing what you know now. What stressors do you still have that you think you may have to face, that you haven't faced yet?
This might sound funny, but wondering how I'm going to take care of my pets.
Okay, this is not funny at all. This is for those of us who are single, especially, the pets become the family, the immediate family. You know, right? They're the family. And how am I going to take care of the pets? What else? Yes.
Because of my lessening of mental capacity, I'm more apt for somebody to take advantage of me.
Okay. As I become weaker, or as I become less aware, I become more vulnerable, increased vulnerability.
And your vulnerability.
Yeah.
And the other thing was to find a bathroom.
To find a bathroom, that's right.
A little more coffee.
And always, and never to pass one up. Right? Yes.
I think part of it too, we have somewhat lost our faith in our government, where we used to depend. I can't imagine when I was younger ever questioning what the government will do. Now I recognize the government can fail, and I can't do anything about it.
Okay, so there's a feeling of powerlessness, and the institutions that I counted on are also not they're not stable. Instability of government institutions. I never believed I would hear anything about the elimination of Social Security. You know, President Eisenhower said, don't worry about Social Security. I remember he said, do not worry about Social Security. The only people who would ever tinker with Social Security are a few of those oil nuts in Texas. That was what he said. And Eisenhower had this thing about the military-industrial complex. He was the one who's a wise old grandpa who said, you know, be careful about this, all of this. And now, you know, there are many of us who wonder, you know, well, now I dare say that if something bad happened to Medicare, 1/2 of our congregation would be in very, very deep trouble. 1/2.
Right.
You know, and so this is a very important fact. So that is another. What else? What other things are you facing?
Fear of health resources.
Fear.
You know, not the health insurance, but the resources. Is there a solution for this pain I have?
Okay. Is there something that can fix this thing? My mom suffered from that terribly. She said, there must be something. And sometimes to come to the reality that sometimes there really isn't something. right?
Right.
Okay. Now,
Also, can I stay in my home?
can I stay in my home?
Independence.
You face that, and you go.
Right, what else? Can I stay in my home, what else?
Can you still have your friends? More and more as you get older, your friends fall away. You think if I go back to where I used to live, you aren't gonna have those friends, they have died.
That's right, right.
And you're alone.
So I can't go back, and it's difficult staying here, and I can't go back.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's another great story. Now, yes.
Well, and I know I'm on the younger end of the spectrum here, but sometimes I have this feeling, if I live to be 80 or 90, which I fully don't expect that I will, but if I did, what am I gonna do?
What am I gonna do? Yeah.
My
really.
father, when his Alzheimer's was getting worse, kept walking around and just going, what do I do now? What do I do now? And I sometimes feel that
Yeah.
way already
So-
a little bit,
so-
the purpose that you mentioned.
So this is the purpose and meaning of my life. What will it be beyond my ability to do?
Yeah.
Now, I want us to remember the first thing in this, one of the solutions in this is that you are a human being, not a human doing. Okay? You are a human being and not a human doing. And you take action because you are a human being. But being precedes anything else. And the being is what we address in the church. So who you are, and who you are in this scheme of things. The Madison Avenue and the working world want to define you as a worker. Remember, that was how Karl Marx defined you, that you are a worker. And as soon as you cannot work, you are nothing. You are nothing. And so that what Marxism couldn't deal with was working or non-working, people who are unable to work. And this was a defining you as a worker is unfair. You're much more than that. You are also in this world. In terms of the church and in terms of relationship to God, what are you in church terms or biblical terms or spiritual terms?
One thing you're not. I thought it can just drive you crazy when you're older, and you say, what can I do? And they say, oh, well, you are an example for others. The heck with that. Who wants to be
I don't want to accept that I am now exemplary.
Yes.
What I want to continue doing is that I want to continue being the active worker. But the reality is that is not always going to be possible.
Can't do that.
Right? And so...
Or the active, physically active anything. I mean, you may be physically...
That's right.
I mean, the active volunteer.
Now, I'm going to say Joanne Rogers, Jonathan Rogers' mom, she had Parkinson's terribly, and in her last couple of years, she could barely move at all. She could barely, but I have never known a person who was more alive and more assured of her value and her worth, because she had a radical sense of being a child of God. She had, in a radical sense, she was, radical means the root, okay? In a radical sense, at root of all things, she was God's child. And that was first and foremost. And, she would say, she could say, I love Jesus and I know Jesus loves me, and it was a personal relationship. She had not a lot of ability to do a whole lot more than pray. or discuss. She could talk with other people, but those are both conversations. And she continued to be in conversation with God and with Christ, with the Spirit within her. She had a strong sense of that, and it transcended the fact that she could, she could not be functioning. And sometimes she was in terrible pain. Okay, so now that is an attitude that is developed by contemplation and by thinking about who you are. We are doing our workshop in a church. Our shop for doing this work today is in a church, okay? And in a church, we are conscious about that we are God's children. All people are. But what we try to do is to say that in the church, we're going to be conscious of that. So that must be always my first, last, and always. I need to be in that place. Secondly, we're not a church that has easy answers. I am not. If this were a more fundamentalist church, I could say to you, well, all you got to do is give it up to God and just pray about it, and everything's going to be fixed, and you're going to and then when it isn't fixed for you, then I can say to you what?
You didn't
pray hard enough, and your faith isn't strong enough, right? So it's all back to you, and it's all back to your fault. Well, I'm sorry, I don't go along with any of that, and I don't believe Scripture will hold that water either. I don't believe the Bible will, I don't think the Bible is about that. The Bible is about people who had stress and who had God. See, what you have in having stress is not unique. And my big problem when I am in pain is believing that I am alone in it. My big problem is believing, or that it is unique to me, or that I'm being picked on, or that, all of those things. One of the questions we always come down to is, what did I?
Why me? What did I do?
Why me, and what did I do to deserve this? Okay, and the answer is probably nothing. There may be things that have contributed to my poor health, and I've done my best to eliminate those, those things, and But the reality is that the stresses of life are they are real, and they are common, and they are a part of what it means to be alive. Probably the day that you're not going to feel stressed will be when somebody's shoveling dirt. Let's just face it. So don't be wishing for stress-free too quick.
Yeah.
I think time of year has a lot to do with it also.
Oh, good. Well, yes.
Holidays.
I really enjoy the place where I am because I get to meet a lot of people, and they're all different. They all have different problems because they're there, and it gives me an opportunity to visit with them, and I enjoy it.
Okay, now that was a perfect segue into and that's a perfect segue into. So if this is common, and if this is the way things are, and if my stress is right now that I can't two pages. If this is a commonplace thing, and if this is the way things are going to be, and I'm a child of God, and I am, then what are some of the ways that I'm going to be able to deal with this? And I want us to look that what you opened up there, what you opened up is that I must get outside of myself. Yes.
Yep. But I try to remember to do.
Yes.
And I am successful maybe 10% of the time. I'm angry at myself about 10% of the time that I don't do it more often is have a little mantra in my head that and I just keep repeating, I am not alone. I am not alone.
That's right.
I am not alone until I can feel the stress level
decrease.
starting to go away.
That is wonderful. Okay, so number one, recognizing that I'm going to get outside of myself by being with other people, because what is my tendency?
Your tendency is to be alone.
To withdraw and isolate. And when I withdraw and isolate, I seal my doom.
Yep.
That to withdraw and to isolate is to die. It's like the coals in a fire. If you take the coal away from the rest of the coals and you put it out here, it will die. The embers keep the embers, keep the embers, keep the embers. I must. So what does that mean? I have to go counterintuitively. I have to be counterintuitive. My intuition is to withdraw and come. Now, this does not mean that I always have to be, that I have to be with people 24 hours a day. That's not it at all. I must have time for meditation. I must have time for prayer. I am a child of God. And you know, as parents, if you're parents, or when you've had parents, you know how much having a conversation means to them. You know how much, as a parent, it means to have conversations with your children. God is not different from that. God, there are people who talk about God as immutable. That is, God is unfeeling. And that's not, our church does not teach that at all. Our church recognizes a feeling and compassionate God. And because this God is feeling and compassionate, that we have conversation and we have love with this God. So prayer is talking to God. Meditation is listening to God. And by listening, I don't mean that God is going to speak sentences at you. By meditation, I don't mean God is going to speak sentences at you. What God will do is give you complete thought. God, you will have whole feelings and thoughts that come to you as out of the blue.
But you have to allow your brain to relax.
That's
and when
right.
you meditate, it lets your body.
I have to be, sometimes God can only talk to me in a dream, because the only time I shut up. That's right. That's really, honestly,
Yeah.
You're going to say something, Bill?
On the money thing, I think you're concerned about, well, if I spend my money, I might not have enough to take care of myself.
That's
It
right.
might be a burden on my children. But on the other hand, what I say, well, I am worth it.
That's right. That's right. And so will there be enough? Will there be enough is a question of which the opposite is faith. Faith says, I'm going to trust God. My non-faith always says, will there be enough? And will there be enough whether it's love, whether it's food, whether it's shelter, is a question of I'm now in the world of I'm not trusting God. I'm trusting me. I'm trusting the government. I really have to get to the place of saying I'm going to do. There's a Danish proverb that says, when you're in a storm at sea, pray to God as hard as you can and row like hell. And what we believe in this church, and what we believe, we've been having a wonderful Bible study that talks about the kingdom of God is a collaborative kingdom. It is a collaborative kingdom. It isn't that God's going to come in and do it all. It isn't that God expects us to do it all. But the collaborative kingdom says that, as Bishop Tucher says, without God, we can't. There's nothing that you're facing here in all of these lists. There's nothing there. Without God, you can't, really. Okay? But without us, God won't. That we are in a collaborative effort with God in our whole lives. And so Now, does that mean it's going to eliminate the stress? No, because the stress is what tells me, the stress is what gives me the indication that I need to do something. The stress is what is telling me that it's prompting me to action or prayer. You know, I mean, it's always. I need, whenever I'm feeling stressed, I must, you know, I have two things that I can do. I can act and I can pray. And meditate. Meditate is part of the prayer. And meditating means I need to listen to God for what's the next indicated thing to do. It is my experience that God has never, when I've been stressed out and when I needed help and I prayed to God, God never gave me a blueprint for the rest of my life. What God did was either send somebody in that moment or give me the indication about the next thing that I need to do. God won't take away all of my future options by fixing everything, you know, for me in the here and now. That's just not the way God works. This is about a relationship, and I'm in relationship with God, and that's going to be happening for every day as long as I'm sucking air and standing above ground with room temperature. You know, I mean, above room. If I'm above room temperature and I'm above ground, God is going to be working with me in this collaborative effort, and I need to be outside of myself, because if I'm in my head and I'm depressed and I'm stressed, I'm in a very bad neighborhood.
You know, if you can let yourself meditate, relax, like you said, yours is in your sleep. There are times when you just feel wrapped in the spirit.
Absolutely.
And it's there, and it's like, wow.
Well, and in those moments, you don't say, the temptation is to say, oh, I want this forever, I want this forever. Well, it's not going to happen forever. It's going to, you know, there are moments. Last Sunday morning in church, I had this feeling that came over me about the presence of all those people.
Yeah.
You know, I had a sense of all those people that we had named and them being nearby, and it wasn't morbid at all. It was just a very loving and a warmth that was God, and it was God that did that. You know, God that made that happen for me. Now, I don't know whether other people felt that or not, but it isn't all the people all the time. You know, that's not the nature of this thing. Now, I want us to look. We're asking God to speak to us in some new way that will help us in prayer. So we're not going to do. We're not going to tell God what to do. This is the biggest part of dealing with stress management, I think, is that when we're children of God, it's very much like, you know, if you think of children always they can tell their parents what needs to happen to make them feel better. And it's usually not right. The child can say to the parent, you know, I need to have this dress or this outfit because all my friends do. And the problem is that what I'm dealing with is peer pressure. And I don't know that, because what I think I'm dealing with is unfairness. And I think I'm dealing with, and my parents sometimes have to say, as a parent sometimes have to say, honey, it's not about the outside. It's not about your outside. You're so valuable. You know, you're so important that this is to even think that having Nike sneakers is going to make you a better person is a big mistake. And so I need to help you kind of get by this. What do you think that, and to get the child talking about this? Well, I believe God does that with us our entire lives. That I think I know what I need. You know, it's the other person, or it's the more money, or so that, and God is saying, that's not what you need. That's the symptom. You're making the symptom to be the issue, and it's not. let's look at, just briefly, we've gone more time than what I thought, but I think this is valuable for all of us. Look at page 3. Look at page 3. And it says, this is a psalm that we know well. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom then shall I fear? Okay, it's one of my favorite songs, too, okay? And light, space, that's God. And when you think about salvation, what is salvation? And I think this is the biggest thing that the church needs to come to grips with. What were we taught with salvation?
Not hereafter.
That it was all about the hereafter. Salvation we were taught, was about the life beyond this life, and it usually went something like, Jesus died for my sins so that I could be forgiven, so that I can go to heaven when I die.
Yeah.
And that's nothing that the Bible says, the Bible teaches, and Jesus teaches essentially that God has a plan for us when we're gone from this world, and heaven is fine, and God will take care of us, you know. And salvation is about here and now. Salvation means rescue. Salvation means rescue. That when I am in trouble, God rescues me. When I was down and out, God rescued me. Well, how did God rescue you? How has God rescued you in your life?
In a number of ways.
Yeah.
Some real simple things, Gabe, when I'm just feeling like, oh, gee.
Yeah.
I get a phone call from somebody that says, I just called to
I
say
just
hi.
called to say hi, okay?
What a difference.
And you think to yourself, what a coincidence. And here I was praying that I was so down in the dumps, and what a coincidence that so-and-so called me, right? Now, well, is it really? How else has God rescued you?
He shows us a path to follow.
A path to follow. Okay, so say more about that. What does it look like?
Well, how can I describe it? You are where you are, but God makes it possible for you to be there. I don't know how to say
God,
it, but
you are where you are, but God makes it possible for you to stay, or to move off the dime, and it's usually one little thing after another. But it's not, to me, again, it's not the blueprint. I don't get the heavenly. The heavens don't open, and an angel doesn't come down and say, well, the rest of your life is going to be golden, and this is all you got to do.
that would
But,
be nice.
not really.
Well, sometimes I think it'd be a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the ways that God has spoken to me the most often, because I'm one of those people that obviously needs it this way, is by my not getting what I think I want. And it has turned out, when I look at it later on, to be the biggest blessing. That, that guy didn't come into my life permanently, or that
I didn't get what I thought I wanted, and it turned out to be the right thing.
And it's like, thank you.
Right. And I think that's really very true. For me, God comes a lot through people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I experience God's presence. I believe God is in all of you. I really do. And I believe that I believe there's a lot of other stuff in all of you too. Let's face it, all of us. That's true for all of us. But that God, who was first fully present in Jesus, fully present, in a human being, has decided that all of us are worthy of God's presence in all of us. And so we get to experience God's love and God's presence in the midst of the trouble. In the midst of all this, it says, when then the Lord drives down, ready to eat alive, those bullies and toughs fall flat on their faces. When besieged, I'm calm as a baby. When all hell breaks loose, I'm collected and cool. I'm asking for one thing, only one thing, to live with him in his house my whole life long. I'll contemplate his beauty. I'll study at his feet. That's the only quiet place in the world. Now, it may be the temple that's where people thought where God lived, okay? That's where people thought God lived, and God's Spirit lived. We know that God's Spirit, there's not a spot where God is not, you know? And so this is about my consciousness, not about where God's going to be, you know? It is about my being conscious that I am not alone, as it says, you know, I am not alone, I am not alone, I am not alone. That wherever I am, God is there. And wherever you are, God is there. And when I'm struggling to find God here because of all the other nonsense that I'm dealing with, I best get with you. I best get outside of myself and get with you. And one of the ways I can do that is to actually make a difference in your life. Look over on the right side of the page there in verse 9. And it says, don't hide from me now, God. You've always been right there for me. Don't turn your back on me now. You've always been right there for me. The psalmist is making that acknowledgement. My father and mother may have walked out of me, but God, you took me in. Point me down your highway, God. Direct me along a well-lighted street. Show my enemies whose side you're on. Don't throw me to the dogs. Those liars. And this is we think this is the Psalm of David, and we think this is when he was on the run. And his own children, and Saul, and you know, everybody is out to get him. And he has, and he writes a little country western song, you know, and this is the song he writes. I'm sure I'll see God's goodness in this exuberance. I'm sure I'll see God again in my lifetime, you know, and stay with God, take heart, don't quit. I'll say it again, stay with God. So now that one is David on the run, and David experiencing what a lot of us have to experience in persecution or challenge or whatever. The second scripture is Isaiah 40, 25 to 31. This is, they're in captivity in Babylon. They are under the pressure of being in a foreign land, not speaking the language, and being oppressed, okay? And so they're being told that it's all in the stars. The astrology is what's controlling you, and you have no say at all. And so this is from God. God says, so who is like me? Who holds a candle to me? Look at the sky. Who do you think made all these stars that they're saying controlled you? Who do you think made all these stars? Who marches this army of stars out each night, counts them off, knows them each by name, and never overlooks a single one? And this is saying that God's saying, honey, I take care of the stars, and they're not going to control or hurt you. I call them out. I know them by name, and I know you by name. I know you by name. So look at verse 27. Why would you complain, O Jacob, or whine, Israel, saying, God has lost track of me. He doesn't care what happens to me. Don't you know anything? Haven't you been listening? God doesn't come and go. God laughs. He's the creator of all you can see and imagine. He doesn't get tired, doesn't pause to catch his breath. And then look at this. Even young, for verse 30. Let's read it aloud together. For even young people tire and drop out. Young folk in their prime stumble and fall. But those who wait upon God get fresh strength. They spread their wings and soar like eagles. They run and don't get tired. They walk and don't lag behind. Okay, this is about trusting God and saying, God, I can't do this. You know, all these stresses, the truth is that I am small and powerless against a lot of them. But I am a child of God who is not powerless. And I have friends in whom God lives. And, you know, as soon as we start talking about all this stuff together, it really does become less. Yes?
You know, it requires a person to make a conscious effort to become vulnerable.
It makes us, I must be consciously, we had to all today admit that we have stressors. We didn't come in here, we didn't all say, I'm fine, you know, I have no problems and all that. What we're saying is, we've got troubles. And God, and we have a God.
Right here in River City.
Right here in River City, we got trouble. With MT. Now, there are two other stories here, there are two other scriptures, and I want you to read them at home. Please don't cheat yourself out of these. The first one is Philippians, and it's Paul. He's writing this under house arrest, and he's going to die after this. He's going to be killed by the Roman Empire. But he says, in the middle of that, celebrate God all day, every day. I mean, revel in Him. Make it as clear as you can to all your mates that you're on their side, working with them and not against them. Help them to see that Jesus, the Master, is about to arrive. And then he says, well, is he talking about the second coming? No. He's talking about don't fret, don't worry, instead pray. And then he says to take your stresses, take your problems, and wrap them in a bundle of thanksgiving. Now, what does that mean? That means make a gratitude list. That means start with whenever you're feeling depressed and worried about it, I want you to first stop and write it down. Get it out of your head and onto a piece of paper, okay? And you write down the things that you're grateful for. And then while looking at those things that you're grateful for, you wrap the stress and the trouble in that package of thanksgiving, and you offer the thanksgiving to God. And that goes like this, something like this. God, I am so thankful for the time that you got me out of this. I'm so grateful for the family that you give to me now. I'm so grateful for my church. I'm so grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm so grateful for friends that care about me. I'm so grateful for the family that I do have. And now, God, please accept all of those thanks, and in that I put the family that I wish I had. And I put in there the money that I don't have. And I give it all to you because I trust that you who have gotten me through all of these things in the past will continue to get me through it again. Amen. Amen. So it's just like that. And that's what Paul says to do, is to wrap it up and to give it up. Now, as soon as I've done that, when I'm in Thanksgiving, my heart is in a whole different place. When I'm in Thanksgiving, my heart is about gratitude, and I'm open to love, I'm open to receiving love, I'm open to giving love, instead of being involved in the pain. Then look at Luke. Jesus talks to his disciples about their worrying, and he says, has worrying ever made you grow an inch? By worrying, have you ever added one day to your life? No. Of course you haven't. You might have lost a day, but the birds of the air, they're not worrying. They just go from place to place, and they just, and the flowers of the field, they didn't do anything. They just grew up, and they're going to be in the oven the next day. But look at how beautiful they are, how beautiful God made them. That's the God who is caring for you. That's the God who loves you. And so Jesus connects us all to the birds and the flowers and connects us all to that big picture, and he invites us to do that. Now, I promised you one thing. Look on page 2. On page 2, what you're going to be doing is you're going to take all those 4 questions at home. Please, take them and think about the key thoughts that you have about Psalm 27, about Isaiah 40, about Philippians 4, and as you read them, they're all printed on these pages, okay? And I want you to put about the key thoughts, and I want you to meditate on those thoughts, okay? And then 4 things that you commit to do to reduce your stress following this workshop in relationship with God, in my relationships with other people, in regard to worrying, in regard to eliminating old habits and developing new ones. Okay? Now, finally, and we're running here, at the bottom of page 1.
It's okay, because the food's not ready.
Oh, good.
Keep talking.
Okay. At the bottom of page 1, some psychologically sound new habits to diminish stress and build serenity. Now, these are 4 tips from Ashley Davis Bush, who authored Shortcuts to Inner Peace, 70 Simple Paths to Everyday Serenity. These are all processes. Okay, there are no tricks that are going to fix you. But there are processes that you can begin that will help you to eliminate a great deal of the stress in your life. And they are stress-busting rituals. And I thank Southwest Airlines in their little magazine that they had the sense to put this book review and article in the November issue, all right? Now, the first stress-busting issue is, or technique is, when you're taking a shower every day, list your worries aloud in the shower, all right, there you are, and you're going to say, I'm worried about money, and you take it in your hand, and you put it down the drain. You let the water wash it down the drain. I'm worried about the money. I'm worried about my kids. You're going to take that one, and you're going to let it wash right down the drain, and nothing. And there is I did it this morning, and I let a whole bunch of worries just out of my head. It means I'm not starting the day negatively. I'm not starting the day with a whole bunch of stuff that I can't do anything about anymore. Really.
Some of us are sure going to use a lot of water.
Lot of water. This will be the best use of the water you've ever had. The second thing is when you're writing a to-do list, while you're at it, you know, we're all good about what we're writing the list about what we're going to take care of and all that. Well, every time you write a to-do list, write a thank you note or I'm just thinking of you note to somebody, and either put it on their pillow or under their plate or mail it to them or whatever, because you know what it means to you when you get one of those things. Yes.
I have a card that says, I'm thinking about you today, and it felt so good, I'm going to do it tomorrow.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is so great. That's fabulous. Okay, so make your to-do list, but always, it gets me outside of thinking that my to-do list is all about me. I need to think about others, okay? The arriving home, shake out your body before going into the house. And it goes like this. It goes like this. You know, I'm going to shake, it's like the hokey pokey, you know. I'm going to shake out my left hand, I'm going to shake out my right hand, and I am leaving all of the problems that I had out there. If I had problems at work, or if I had problems at the nursing home, or if I had problems at whatever, I'm going to shake it all out, and this is related to the spiritual practice in many countries of people taking off their shoes before they go into the house. It's not about dirt. It's not about dirt. It's about leaving outside what belongs outside. I'm home now, and I don't need to be going into home and having a difficult time. Yes.
We're ready to eat.
Well, we have one more point here. Okay.
The Lord sent me.
Good. So it says, when you do this, what you want to do is you want to let that energy fall away, and you're shaking out your body, and it says that you are activating the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, the parasympathetic nervous system is that which takes care of you automatically. It's nothing that you are conscious about. But there are two systems, and one is fight or flight, and you don't want to carry that into your house. You know, the fight or flight thing you just don't want to carry indoors. Instead, you want to carry the rest and relax parasympathetic nervous system into your house. You know, allow that. And finally, lying in bed. These are all four things that you do every day. Okay? Lying in bed, review 3 things that happened today for which you are grateful. Review 3 things that you're grateful for, and then say, how did that make me feel? How did that make me feel when that happened? And that gratitude is going to help you relax, help you go to sleep. It's not a time for a to-do list. Don't go to bed and make a to-do list that will keep you unrested and uncoordinated and renewed in the morning. You know, that's the last thing you need. So finally, let us pray. God, thank you for this time together. Thank you for the love that you exhibit to us in this room. Thank you for friends who care about us. Thank you for a church where we can gather and develop and strengthen our relationship with you. Thank you for food to eat that strengthens our bodies. Thank you for people who are willing to share about the stresses in their lives that help to release the stress in our home. Thank you for people to talk to. Thank you most of all, God, that you're there for all of us, that we can share our innermost concerns and our worries and our fears, and that we can share them with you and one another, and that we're in a safe place with that. Now, bless us, oh God, and help us to release the stresses only so that we might be more useful to you by being useful and warm and open to the other people that you put in our lives. And all this we ask in the name of Jesus, who loves us all right to the end and loves us still. Amen. Amen. Thank you all.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
I dropped my pie and I think Okay, that's cake. That's pie in that custard. Yeah. Okay, I'll have a piece of custard pie, not even crust, I can do that.
Thank you.
I don't know that.
I'm sorry, it leaked into my head. I gotta go tell her, or I'll forget.
That's a meal. Just dropped on the floor.
I have to be patient as much as I can.
Something that I had to wait, what was the check? That is check. Who am I? What is it?
Anything else?
Well, it can't be too well. Quick, it can't be fine.